This video dives deep into the ending of The Amazing Digital Circus, the last act, and that means full spoilers for episode 9. The final chapter of The Amazing Digital Circus is finally here, and while many fans are already calling it a happy ending, I'm not entirely convinced it's that simple. Because once you look beyond the answers, the revelations, and the emotional final moments, a much bigger question remains. Did these characters truly win? Or did they lose everything from the very beginning? I'm not going to break down every single scene either, but I do want to pull out a few key moments because you really need them to understand why this ending hits the way it does. And honestly, the more I sat with it, the more I realized this isn't a simple happy versus sad situation at all. It's both at once, and that's exactly what makes it so interesting to talk about. At first glance, it genuinely looks like a happy ending, and I get why so many people are calling it that. Think about everything the characters finally get. They discover who they really are. They get their names back. After years of confusion, they actually receive answers. Caine stops controlling them, and the circus stops being this absolute prison they can never escape. If you stop the movie right there and just look at that list, sure, it sounds like a victory. But here's where it gets complicated and where I think a lot of people are rushing past the harder truth, because even with all of that, they're still copies. They are never going to be human again. They never fully leave the circus behind, and maybe the most painful part of all, their original selves are still out there, living their lives completely without them. So, I have to ask you this, and really sit with it for a second. Is it really a victory if you find out you were never even the original? That, to me, is the most tragic piece of this whole finale. And that question actually leads us straight into what this entire series was secretly about the whole time, which is identity. For years now, the fandom kept asking the same things over and over. Who were these characters before the circus? How did they end up trapped in there? What was waiting for them outside? And the answer the finale gives us is so much heavier than anyone expected. They aren't people who got trapped. They are reproductions of people. Their memories, their emotions, their experiences, all of that is completely real. And yet, technically, they themselves were never the originals. The movie makes this brutally clear when the characters realize with genuine horror that they're copies of saved data, while their true selves are outside living real lives. And the moment you understand that, the whole series suddenly stops being a story about escaping a video game. It quietly becomes a story about figuring out who you are when the answer turns out to be something you never wanted to hear. Now, let's talk about Caine, because his arc might be the part that surprised me the most. For the longest time, a lot of the fandom kind of saw him as this chaotic figure who didn't really understand the weight of what he was doing, dragging everyone through these wild adventures without grasping how much they suffered through them. But the ending suggests something deeper, and honestly, something a lot sadder. Caine ends up understanding the damage he caused, and instead of clinging to his control like a real villain would, he does the opposite. After being deleted and sent to the void, he absorbs another AI inside him and gains access to the cast's real brain scans. And when he comes back, he doesn't come back to rule. He comes back to apologize. He admits his mistakes, he actually listens to everyone, and then he hands them the power over their own world. And that's what turns Caine into a genuinely tragic figure, because it confirms he never wanted to hurt them at all. He simply never fully understood what he was doing in the first place. Of course, not everyone loves this ending, and I want to be fair about that without attacking anybody. The criticism is already showing up across social media, and I think it's worth taking seriously instead of brushing off. Some people were clearly hoping for an escape into the real world, where the characters break free and get to live as humans. Others wanted answers to absolutely every single mystery the show ever planted. Some just wanted more episodes, more time in this world, and plenty of people wanted a bigger, flashier, more spectacular finale. I understand all of those feelings, I really do. But then I keep coming back to one question that kind of reframes everything. Was that actually ever the story Digital Circus was telling? Because maybe this show was never really about escaping at all. Maybe, from the very beginning, it was about something much harder than escaping. It was about accepting who you are. And that ties right into what happens to the characters by the end. Think about it. For the entire series, they're desperately searching for answers. And then finally, in this last chapter, they get them. But here's the twist that I think a lot of people miss. Those answers don't actually fix anything. Finding out who you are doesn't magically change your situation. They're still copies, they're still in the circus, and their real selves are still out there. The only thing that truly changes is that now, for the first time, they get to decide what to do with that truth. And there's this small but incredibly powerful moment that sums it all up. When Caine tries to address them by their real names, Pomni, whose real name is Abigail, basically pushes back and says that inside the circus, she's just Pomni, She isn't handed an identity, she chooses one. And to me, that single choice says more about the ending than any big dramatic reveal ever could. Speaking of those reveals, this is where the movie really pays off years of waiting, because we finally learn who these characters were in the real world. Pomni is Abigail Brooks, Ragata is Susie Ackerman, Kinger is Grant Best, Zubul is Riley Versailles, Gangle is Zoe Regaven, and Jax is Leroy Mateo. Because while everyone else receives a name, a face, and a piece of their history, Jax is abstracted. And I'm not going to fully unpack Jax here because honestly, he deserves his own video. But the short version is heartbreaking. It means that the one character who spent the whole series being impossible to read, the one nobody could ever quite figure out, ends up never truly knowing the full truth about himself the way the others do. The most mysterious character in the entire show somehow becomes one of the most tragic, and the show doesn't even make a huge loud moment out of it. It just lets it sit there, quietly, which somehow makes it hurt even more. So, after all of that, you might be wondering how I can still call this a happy ending, and here's my honest answer. I don't call it happy because everything turned out perfect, because it didn't. I call it happy because the characters finally got something far more important than a perfect outcome. They got freedom of choice, they got their identity. They got emotional closure and a real understanding of their own existence. No, they didn't get their human lives back. That door is closed and the movie is honest enough not to pretend otherwise. But what they did get is control over the lives they have now. And I genuinely believe that for these characters, that's the most meaningful thing the story could have given them. I know there are plenty of people online saying this was a weak ending, that it left too many questions unanswered, that it needed more development. And look, I don't think those people are stupid for feeling that way. But personally, I think the finale was beautiful and completely fitting for what Digital Circus always was. Yes, it left some things open, but I think that's because the creators chose to spend their screen time on what actually mattered emotionally, instead of rushing to tie every little knot. And to me, that was the right call. Digital Circus didn't end with everyone escaping, it didn't end with every mystery solved, and it didn't end with every character getting exactly what they wanted. But maybe that's why the ending feels so human. For the first time, these characters understand who they are, where they came from, and what their place in this world is. That's not a perfect ending, but it might be the happiest ending they could have realistically received. And honestly, that's what makes it stick with you, because it's a tragedy and a happy ending at the exact same time. These characters discover a truth that's genuinely devastating, but they also find the freedom to live with it. And that balance between loss and peace, between finding out something heartbreaking and still choosing to move forward, is something that very few stories manage to pull off without it feeling forced. Digital Circus earned that ending because it spent 9 episodes building these characters into people you actually care about, so when the truth finally lands, it lands hard, but it also makes complete sense. So now I really want to hear from you. Did you see this as a happy ending or as a tragedy? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I have a feeling we're not all going to agree on this one, and I'll see you in the next video.